From 11:40 to 12:05, you have a meeting in the Grand Hall to receive diplomatic credentials from the ambassadors of the Dominican Republic and Zambia.
Do they speak any English?
I believe so.
Oh, good. I hate it when they don't even try. You know, whenever I go to a foreign country, I always try to learn some phrases, gives me an edge with the people of that country. Shows I did my homework, shows I care. Some people come right in here, no effort whatsoever. Not in their national character. That's why they'll never be superpowers like us.
From 12:05 to 1:05, you have your open hour, at the end of which we thought would be a good time to have your meeting with Mr. Presley. From 1:10 to 1:30, you have an informal meet and greet with 150 or so White House volunteers in the state dining room.
Elvis Presley.
Yes, sir. The entertainer.
Oh, I know who Elvis Presley is, yes. Who the set this up?
Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Travers, and welcome to Popcorn, where we tell you what's happening at the movies. And my guest today, Kevin Spacey, one of the best actors on the planet, in my opinion, has a new movie where he is playing another president, Richard Milhous Nixon. The movie is called Elvis and Nixon. And you might think that you know what it's about, but believe me, you don't. But you're here to do it.
I'm here to explain it.
It's so crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. I mean, when you hear about this meeting, the way it happened, the fact that Elvis Presley, who was much more conservative, I think, than people would recognize.
He was then, wasn't he?
Very, very concerned about where America was, concerned about the protests against the war, concerned about what he saw as a lack of respect for law enforcement and the presidency. And he felt very strongly, this is 1970, that he could help the country get steered back in the right direction. And so he wanted Richard Nixon to make him an undercover federal agent at large. Now, I know that sounds completely crazy. We play it quite seriously.
You do.
But it is just this side of Dr. Strangelove. It is a very, very odd situation.
Well, isn't it true that a meeting in 1970, in December, that photograph that was taken is the most popular in the National Archives?
Strangely enough, it is the most requested item in the National Archives from tourists, above a copy of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. It is the most popular item, for reasons I can't even begin to imagine.
I guess it's because they just don't belong together.
It could be that.
It's like, what?
It could be
what
that.
is happening?
What's interesting, actually, and a little bit surprising, is that maybe, as I said, Elvis was more conservative than people imagined, but maybe also Nixon was more liberal than people remember. And these two men who you would think would have nothing in common, in the course of this meeting and by the end of this meeting that they had, I think had a genuine respect and understanding and appreciation for each other that they did not have when they walked into the room at first. So there's a kind of symmetry that they discover in the course of this conversation.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Nixon, this wasn't the time, it was before Watergate, so he really wasn't taping every conversation.
No, in fact, he hadn't even started taping at all. He wouldn't start taping in the White House for another year and a couple of months. So this is a meeting of which there is no record, which on the one hand is frustrating, but on the other, it meant that we could imagine what that meeting was, although we did have a number of experts and consultants on the film who were there that day. The character that Colin Hanks plays, who was one of Nixon's aides, and the character that Alex Pettyfer plays, who was one of Elvis's guys. They were both consultants on the film. And so I think
But even they moved in and out of that room, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody was there the whole time.
The whole time, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
So we have imagined what this conversation would be like. And I know certainly after listening to a lot of Nixon's tapes, I listened to a lot of the private phone calls and tapes, and this guy swore like a banshee. I mean, he was...
What? Let me hear what he said.
He used more swear words than I think any president who's ever been in the Oval Office. And I think maybe more Americans were shocked by that than almost anything else. He literally used words I can't say.
Oh, you can say it here.
Here. Can I?
You can say it here.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yes.
Well,
Come
I
on.
probably shouldn't. But
Oh, you should.
I'll get letters. But he definitely used damn it as a verb. And mother he said quite often.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in my Nixonian way.
Well, yes, but you know, people will be saying this to you all the time. You are the president in House of Cards. We see you as Frank Underwood. Nixon might be the closest to a real president to Frank Underwood in terms of saying behaving above the law.
That's possible. If you, that is, believe that Frank Underwood has done anything that is above the law.
He hasn't done anything that's actually lawful, you know, in that whole thing. I'm thinking of.
Well, again, this is just an opinion. This is just your opinion.
Well, it is my
there are
opinion.
Other people who
disagree.
feel differently about
I'm thinking that
Frank
Nixon
Underwood. There's one nation under Wood.
Or what? Yeah. I'm just thinking that Nixon never threw a reporter onto a train tracks or had a three-way, you know.
Well, now we don't know.
No, but I'm guessing.
We don't know.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, actually, it's what's kind of interesting and was a challenge for me was how can I be on an Oval Office set and not have people think of Frank Underwood? But I think that there is such a kind of Nixonian personality that is so different from Underwood that I felt like if I could get that essence, and particularly his physicality, this was not a man comfortable in his own skin.
Oh, no.
You don't see it so much when he's doing public events, but there's a lot of photographs of Nixon just sitting around in the White House where he just looks so uncomfortable. So I tried to capture that and get sort of what I felt was a quality that people could identify with.
Well, I think it's there. But talk a little, if you could, about you and Michael Shannon working together on this.
Michael, I think, approached this very similar in that he didn't want to do an imitation. He actually got a hold of an interview that had been done for one of Elvis's documentaries that, in fact, in the end, they only used a single line for in that movie, but it's a hugely long interview that Michael was able to listen to, and I think that helped him discover a lot of things and qualities and interests that Elvis had that the public had never heard. This particular interview, he managed to get a hold of it. And I have to say there were times when Michael, who is an actor I admire so much, would do something that was so Elvis Presley-like that I just would lose it because it was so unexpected. And I think he really found, again, that sort of essence of a character. But he's a tremendous actor, and I've been so delighted and pleased to see him really building an extraordinarily substantial film career.
Well, in the movie, what we're seeing the two of you do, there's a lot of, I don't want to spoil any surprises that happen, but one thing that I just loved was the protocol that Elvis, who is used to basically commanding, he's a rock star.
That's right.
You know, Nixon's a rock star too, but in a political arena.
Yes,
and they're saying Nixon's going to have a Dr. Pepper.
That's right. They each have a protocol that I guess whenever they go somewhere, everyone knows these are the things you don't do and these are the things you do with the president. These are the things you don't do and these are the things you do with Elvis Presley. And they just, it's like a train wreck watching.
They won't obey.
They don't obey either.
It's like how you demanded fresh popcorn today.
Well, only because from the last time I think you had a guest on that it was all glued together.
Glued together, yes.
Yeah, but this is, no, it's actually.
It's real.
It's real.
It was real. Ah!
Nice.
That's
nice shot.
Very Frank Underwood of you to do that. You know, really nice. Look at that. And the union guys will be very upset that you moved this.
I have a card. I can pick this up.
It's all okay. Yeah. By the end, it'll just be tossed on my head.
That's right.
I can just see that happen.
It's really popcorn with Pete Travers.
That's right. Here it is. Here it is. So did you ever get to meet any of these people? How did they, because this may be a surprise to you. You know, you've only played 2 presidents and God knows how many kings. You know?
I played a couple of kings.
Richards and
but I hope to have a few more presidents, you know, in my stock.
Who would you do? I mean, Clinton and you are so close.
I'd certainly do impressions of Clinton. But I probably have a Roosevelt in me.
Really?
You know?
Teddy or Franklin?
I think Franklin, yeah.
But you're a politically involved person.
Yeah.
And you have to be that way. Are you?
I've always been that way. I just think, you know, despite the fact that there are times when, you know, people can question the value of politics and what they can do, I do think public service is really incredible. And I think that when someone decides to run for public office, you know, we can bring people together and really, you know, solve a lot of problems. And I think it's fantastic. And I have certainly never allowed doing a series like House of Cards to dissuade my optimism at all. I mean, it's very interesting how with many politicians I'll hear some people say that they think the show is really, you know, very fictional and it's absolutely not like that at all. And then others will tell me that it's closer to the truth than anyone would like to imagine.
A lot of politicians I talk to think it is. They totally believe that it is. And this season, the 4th season, that you can still binge watch, people can be out there doing this. There's a lot of campaign stuff in this one. And you managed to still make your presence known while in a coma. That was pretty good.
I can't be the spoiler in chief, so because there are many people who are literally just
they
now
haven't been there.
discovering the first season. So I don't
Well,
talk
those
about.
people,
I don't talk
I'm
about,
not talking to them.
I know I don't talk about specifics, but I will say what's actually been for me an incredible thing is that the runway we've had to be able to tell this story has been very long. I think the creative team has been incredible, and we always knew that we would be having a parallel election during a real election. And it's always funny to me that every year there are things that seem to happen on the show that then happen in real life after. And I know people think we ripped this off from the headlines, but it's actually worked the other way around. We've written it, we've shot it, then something like it happens, and then our season gets dropped. Very odd.
It is.
Now here's my
Very
belief.
scary.
I've made this joke for a little while, but I'd like to believe it's possible that if we write something we actually want to have happen in the show, then it might actually happen outside of the show. So we want to write an episode where $985 billion gets put into the arts budget.
Yeah.
Then let's
That's
see if we
definitely
can make
gonna
that happen.
happen.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Maybe $900.
The National Endowment of the Arts could get like $985 billion. That would be incredible.
That would be so
So
great.
we're going to work on that.
Good, do that. I want to, without giving anything away, commend your co-star Robin Wright for directing
Yeah, she's
several
done-
episodes.
Yeah, she's done
that-
many.
But that were so much about that campaign. Those were tough things to take on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're really terrific.
She loves directing, and she's great at it. And we've known each other a very, very long time.
You still
And,
speaking to each other after 4
absolutely. No,
seasons?
if people knew how much Robin and I giggle through shooting House of Cards, we crack each other up. I'm constantly doing voices and making her laugh. It's really fun to come to work every day.
Which of your impressions delights her the most?
Hans.
Hans.
Yes, I do a character named Hans of Europe. You understand or not so much?
Not so much.
Not so much?
Not so much.
I'll speak a little slower.
I can see her loving that.
Yeah, it's funny to you. I'm doing a television show called Hans Across America. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to have a happy set. Because she can't laugh ever. Claire Underwood
She's
is a person.
very, she's very
Yeah.
steely,
It's like,
and also if she bends, she breaks apart.
yeah. But you're telling us she's just
They
a mad
sew those
cat.
dresses on her.
She's just
Looks amazing.
yeah, all of that. Now there's going to be a 5th season.
There is
of
going to be a 5th
House
season,
of Cards
yes.
that I can't reveal anything. And
That is
nothing new.
correct. There is, however, a terrible. I will give away this. There's a moment in an episode in which a critic from a major magazine, I don't want to say which one, is found in a horrible state. It involves a goat. But other than that, I don't want to get into it.
Goat. Wow. Okay.
Because
Let
you
me
know,
just use
Pete,
that.
people have been saying you're the goat, man, for
You're
years.
the goat. Yeah.
The goat.
Can't wait to see season 5. It'll just be so wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you look back on your career, and I don't know how often you go and look at the movies you've done. When I see
Very infrequently.
infrequently. What makes you happiest of some of those films you've done?
I have to say the films that I'm proudest of are the ones that I think will stand the test of time.
But what about those movies that you think, not about you, but the movies you were in that you think stand the test of time?
Oh, I shouldn't. You know, that's your job.
I know, but that's
It's
why I
not my
wasn't
job.
asking you. Well, okay. To me, everybody knows American Beauty. When the only time in my life I met President Clinton, we talked about that movie. And Fight Club.
Oh,
Those
wow.
were like two of his favorite things that he'd ever seen.
Wow.
Usual Suspects, I would think people still stop you and say,
Yeah, absolutely.
Kaiser Soze.
Yeah,
there you
definitely.
are.
Yeah, definitely.
Seven, you know. A favorite of mine that doesn't come up enough is L.A. Confidential. To do those. So would they be in the category that you'd be considering?
Yeah,
them?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting how even films like Glengarry Glen Ross, which is a movie I'm incredibly proud of being in, but that film didn't do well at all. And you sort of look at it now, and it's almost become a cult classic. And you know, there are films that I love doing, like The Ref, which is sort of the anti-Christmas movie.
It is.
People like to see at Christmas time. So yeah, I feel incredibly blessed, but I also am of a mind that when people ask me questions like, you know, what's your favorite film you've done, my hope is I haven't done it yet. My hope is it's ahead of me and not behind me.
Well, that's a good way to look at the world. Yeah. It's here. I didn't want to do this, but you're probably on another show.
No, you can do
know,
that.
Yeah,
It's fine.
What
There
the
you
hell is
are.
that
Now
doing
we're
it?
talking.
Now it's just, you know, and all those parts that I was mentioning, or the majority of them, you play a rat bastard, which
Some of
you're
them.
revealing yourself
Some of them.
as here.
Some of them.
Look at that, throwing popcorn
this
at the host.
This is just.
Is it affectionate?
It's your. Yes, it's all affectionate. It's your show.
See that it's my show, so
your
I should have
show.
the most.
Now it's
crap
really popcorn
put on
with
me.
Pete Trevor.
But let me take it back to the beginning with this. And again, I don't want you to say, oh, I'm great in this scene. I just want you to look at, when you look at Elvis and Nixon, is there a moment between you and Michael that you can remember as something satisfying?
There's a great thing where he is demonstrating how his hands work in karate. He's an expert in karate. And he asks Richard Nixon to put out his fists, and then he starts slapping the president's fists, and it is just one of the oddest things that you could possibly imagine. Elvis Presley saying these lines of dialogue while he smacks Richard Nixon's fists is a very, very funny moment. It's one of my favorite moments in the film.
One in the Kevin Spacey time capsule now.
Yeah.
Right, here
right.
it is, it does that.
Right. Which, by the way, will also be filled with a lot of popcorn. There'll be
I
a lot
think
of
it should
popcorn
be
in my
your
capsule.
time capsule, so that I'll be happy if I get to go in and visit. All right, last thing we do on the show is song. You know that, even though it's been forever since you've been on.
Sure.
And I think you did a little Bobby Darin for me before, but I wanted it to be something. Maybe, what do you think of all Elvis Presley songs would fit Richard Nixon? I can't imagine Richard Nixon singing in the shower at all, but maybe he did.
I think it would have to be a hunk of burning love.
Could you, I was going to say Suspicious Minds, but I was
Oh,
too
Suspicious
literal.
Minds, yeah,
I
oh,
was too
Suspicious
literal.
Minds is good, yeah.
Can you give me a little of,
A hunk of burning love.
no, not as Elvis. I want it as Nixon.
Oh, you wanted as Nixon?
Nixon, yeah.
Oh, damn it, go yourself.
It can't be topped. This show's now over.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you for
that was
coming.
it.
Thank you very much.
That'll be all over
Nice
YouTube.
to see you.
Yes, that's like perfect.